Welcome to Rebirth Podcast. I'm your host, Shea. Thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Tonight, we're going to be talking to Dr. Stephen Parker. We're going to be talking why the nation needs Black men. Tune in.
Out of the ashes we will soar to a destiny we can't ignore. Heartbeats echo through the night with every dream and endless flight. Together strong, let's break the mold. Our rebirth and stories told. It's time to renew, rebuild, restore. Unlock the dreams we've been waiting for. Rise up higher, more and more. With every breath, a new dawn's roar.
Good evening. Welcome to Rebirth Podcast. I'm your host, Shea. Thank you guys for joining us. Happy Monday to you and happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are out there. I hope you guys really took time and poured into yourselves on Father's Day, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves, right? Fathers are so important, and so needed in our community. And even father figures are needed. So even if you don't have a biological child, just being able to show up for other children is so important and is so needed. So thank you so much for all that you do. And again, happy Father's Day to all of you that's out there. So welcome to Rebirth Podcast. We are wrapping the season up. Season 4 has been a season of healing. I believe every guest that I have interviewed during season 4 has brought something about healing to the platform. And tonight, I'm so excited about having this person come on. But before we get into it, I want to do a little bit of acknowledgement with some of the things that's going to be happening and going on that I think you should know about, right? So first up is Amani Healing and Therapy Center. Now, I will tell you, I am the executive director over this mental health practice, and we are doing a maternal virtual burnout group, okay? This is going to be 4 group sessions, June 21st, June 21st, June 28th, July 12th, and July 19th. You can register at ccddelaware.com. This group is going to meet every Saturday on those dates from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And it will be facilitated by Simone Burke Cousins, who is also a therapist at Amani Healing and Therapy Center. And she is also a certified grief counselor. So, ladies, listen, please don't feel, don't feel jaded or shy about joining something like this, because it's so important. No matter how old your children is, we all go through it. We all experience it at different levels. So whether you have newborns or you have adult children, right? Because some of us, our adult children, is still stressing us out as well. So feel free to register and join Amani Healing and Therapy Center for the maternal burnout group. Also, I want to let you know that we are accepting insurance now. We used to be self-pay only, but we are accepting insurance. So if you are looking for some individual work, some group work, some couples counseling, make sure you reach out to Amani Healing and Therapy Center. All right. And also for the summer, for our anxiety teens, we are offering an anxiety teen relief group. And this is by the Center for Child Development for ages 13 to 17. This will be offered 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And the sessions are June 18th, June 25th, July 9th, July 16th, July 23rd, and July 30th. You can register at ccddelaware.com or simply just call 302-292-1334. All right. So those are all the things that we have coming up for the summer. It's a lot of things that's happening. So you can't say there's nothing to do here in Delaware. You can't say that there's no help out there, especially for our kids over the summertime. If you want to get them in something that's positive, something that's going to help them grow and pour back into them, we have these different camps and groups that are going to be coming up. So If this doesn't apply to you, make sure that you share it with someone that, it would be useful for. Okay. All right, guys. So again, I'm very excited. Welcome to Rebirth Podcast. If you have not done so already, please subscribe right now. We are on all platforms, and please make sure you share tonight's episode because you don't want to miss this. Okay. We have Dr. Stephen Parker that is going to be joining us today. He is a fellow social worker. He is an abolitionist. He is an educator, and he's a psychotherapist. But he is also the officer of the Diverse Equity and Equality. I always mess this up. See what I just did? I always mess this up. But once he come on, he's going to tell you guys everything about him and all that he's a part of. So without further ado, we're going to be talking to Dr. Stephen Parker, and we're going to be talking about why the nation needs Black men. Why do nations need Black men? Make sure y'all put any comments or questions in the box if you have any. Dr. Parker.
Hey, good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm feeling strong in my mind, body, and soul on this evening. How are you, Shea?
That's good. I'm great. Welcome to Rebirth Podcast. It's so great to finally have you on.
Thank
So
you.
can you please talk to our audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you from, and all the things, all the hats that you wear, because you wear a lot of hats.
Hey, listen, I tell folks I'm just one human, right? A speck trying to make a change. But a little bit about me. Again, Dr. Stephen D. Parker. I was born actually in Chicago, Illinois, in a place called Cabrini Green. And so some of your viewers may say, all right, we know where this brother come from. At one point in time, it was one of the most heinous projects created, where it harbored Black lives, right? A pretty rough space, place, and time. So that's where I'm from. Currently residing in Baltimore and loving it every day. I am a psychotherapist, as you said, by way of being a social worker with experience in post-secondary education. I've served as vice president over diversity, equity, and inclusion, and chief diversity officers and other things, right? Working with affirmative action and Title IX and EEO, right? And other policies of that nature. And currently I serve here in a county where I serve as the diversity, equity, inclusion officer, right? Really trying to break down systems of oppression.
Right. Wow. And I've never talked to you about that. Your experience in Baltimore in that position. How have you been received coming into a position like that in Baltimore?
Yeah, important, right? So I think the reception here in Maryland is different than what I've done in the nation, right? I've had opportunities to work in very rural spaces, and this is actually my first time being in an urban setting doing this type of work. It's different, right? I'm a brother who has had affiliation with our siblings on the other side, like the Ku Klux Klan, with Proud Boys, right? And some of the other terrorist groups that reside at the bases of this nation. And particularly to our melanated skin. So here in Maryland, it has been a beautiful reception. We can't forget that the fabric of this nation, it was not woven with us with intent, although we were the weavers along our First Nation siblings. And so it's been a good reception overall, been able to make some change at the county level that is making waves to liberate folks, as well as to give people voice and place, space, and time.
Yes. And that's so important. So, we thank you for all that you're doing to support that, because it's needed, and it's very, very important, especially in this day and time. It's very important. So, we're talking tonight about why the nation need Black men, and we're just coming off of celebrating Father's Day. And I just think that this is going to be so powerful and it's important. So if you are currently watching and you know a man that can benefit from watching this episode, please share this episode with them right now before we get into this conversation, because I promise you this brother is powerful and you're going to walk away with some knowledge tonight. Okay. I promise you that.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Parker, why? Why does the nation need Black men?
Right. I think that's a powerful question. And I ask people to take a moment not only to reflect on Father's Day coming up, right? But to just reflect, a little over a week ago, right? Let's talk about George Floyd, right? Let's talk about May, just a few years back, right?
Right.
We don't realize that Black brother who called out for his mother on the streets of Minneapolis changed the nation. And the way in which he did such thing, which now we see being peeled back, right, is from that brother's work, we saw a boom, right, from that Black man's life. We saw a boom in these diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts from major consumer businesses, right? That's just but one reason, right? Because we have thousands upon thousands, millions upon millions, right? And so that's just but one reason of why we need Black men. And so I think about things like health disparities, right? And in this nation, if we did not know, health disparities for particularly Black men are the highest of any racial group in this nation, disproportionately. Right. So if we working so hard to eradicate something so sexy, such as this melanated skin, that must mean that we need that. Right. We need that in some capacity.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think that our Black men know that about themselves? Do you think they understand or realize the power that they hold within? And that the nation does need them, because there's so much up against the Black man, so many things out there to tear him down. What if they just don't know, or they feel like, what do I have to offer? What do I have to give? Because you have a lot of brothers that walk around feeling that way. They're so beat down.
Right. I'm not going to do a spoiler for anybody, Shea, but what I want folks to do, and look, I ain't getting paid by the people who directed this, but go watch the movie The Sinners. Like, go watch Sinners. Like, just go watch Sinners for a second, right? And really try to wrap your mind around what the creators were trying to tell. They were telling a story, right? And it signified not only Black men, but Black women. We're talking about melanated folks trying to, be themselves in a system that was built to oppress them. And so to your question, do Black men know? Do I believe that Black men know? And let's talk about it at a majority level, right? Let's bring in some stats. I fear that because of oppression and the continued environment, right, the continued climate that oppresses and erases the Black man's identity, right, in this nation, and then also ostracizes what Blackness looks like outside of these walls, right? So we rarely know what Blackness looks like on the continent of Africa. Right. We rarely know what that looks like. Right. We have images of feed the children and all this other foolishness that we were forcibly educated on. But I fear that Black men may not know. I fear that Black men may not know. And I'll point, all of your listeners to a quick theory, right? A simple Google of minority stress theory will help people better understand why Black men might not know. Right.
Okay.
That they are wanted, that they are needed.
Yeah. So how do we turn this around? How do we turn it around so they do know, how powerful, how important they are, not just in the nation, but just in our lives, in our families. Let's talk about the Black family, right? Which has been broken up. We can go in a whole nother direction with that, but feels like, on purpose, is to remove the Black man from the home, from the family. So how do we stop that? Because it's generational.
That's right.
And I don't know if it's getting better.
That's right. You got some folks that would argue it's getting better, right? And yet we're trying to erase the realities that create healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
venture off just a little bit. Let's venture off to when we were being raised by our parents. Let's just venture off. For anybody who being raised by their parents and you were raised in a black home, maybe low socioeconomic status, even mid-level status socioeconomically, and you got in trouble. Now all of us know this term where I say you gonna get your butt whooped. Right.
Right.
Your butt whooped. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You're gonna get your butt whooped.
Exactly.
Right?
Go get the switch or belt so I can whoop you with it.
And go get it, bring it here. And we would go do that, right? I bring that to the forefront. I bring that
about trauma.
in its own. And we both know that trauma is a part of life. But let me tell you something. There's a saying in a black community where I'm gonna get you before I let the officers get you. Right. And there's power to that. And it leads to your question. Right. And I think part of the answer, because I don't have all the answers, but part of the answer, Shea, to your question is, how do we fix this? How do we fix Black men knowing that they are indeed needed in this nation? And I would argue on this rock, this globe, this earth. Right. Part of that starts with us really conceptualizing what is needed and what is Blackness. Right. And so when we think about chattel slavery ending not even 200 years ago from today, not even 200 years ago, I got a great granny still living in the hundreds, right? And with that being said, we're not even 200 years post, right? Chattel slavery of people that look like me and that look like you.
Yeah.
So to that end, right, I think part of it is really framing it through education. I think parents, right, should try their best. Our elders, we got to drop the ideology of that was long ago. We have to drop certain ideologies like the white way is the right way. We have to drop the ideologies that our African siblings are somehow, some way inferior and less than, and that white ideology is critical and needed.
Yeah.
Part of that, Shea, is thinking about who we are. And that brings me to a mind, body, soul reflectiveness that we need to do daily. Right.
Okay.
And I don't think we do that daily because we working, we struggling, we trying to make sure we keep up with whiteness in space. Right. And so then we just fall into that trap. But when we center mind, body, and soul as a model of being, we can then question our mind, our body, and our soul. Right. And so I would tell people, right, if we're going to fix it, let's start by unlearning and relearning. That's number one.
Yes.
We got to unlearn and relearn. You know some stuff. I know that the language that I'm speaking is not mine. I just know it. So the question then is, how close can I get to the original language that my people did speak? Right. What I do know is the currency that I spend, I don't see Black, melanated women, men, and non-binary folks on that currency. The question that I would ask is why? When I can answer said questions of my mind, then I can begin to work on my body, address some of these health disparities, like why I like eating chitlins and hog maws and, grits and why, right? Why? I can ask those questions and seek out the answers easier than when we ever could. We back in the 90s, 80s, we couldn't do that. 70s, we couldn't do that. Now it's easier than ever to make questions about our mind, bodies, and soul, what we normalize, and then challenge those questions, right? With answers.
Yeah. I'm glad you broke that down because that was going to be my next question. If someone does not know how to do that, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you just broke that down. That was really good. So I really appreciate that. When on the mental health side of things with Black men, what is one of the common things that you may see in regards to things that I don't like to use the word struggle, but things that maybe prohibit them from being their best selves? What do you see happening with our Black men?
Right. One of the things that I saw when I was practicing in rural Colorado, when I got the privilege of serving Black men, only a couple, and now I see currently on the East Coast, right, with Black men heavily, is that we have internalized the practice of erasure. I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to break that down a little bit.
Yeah, please
We
do.
as black men, I got you. I got you. As black men, we have internalized, right, the practice of erasure. So, erasure being the sense of what we currently see the federal government trying to do. Erase us
Mm,
out of seminal structures like museums, out of schools, out of
yes.
policy, but we've done it at a micro level within ourselves, right? For
Mm,
example, I have a client, and the client is coming to me for what they believe to be relational issues, which leads to depression. Fair
right.
enough.
Right.
They believe that their relationship is unhealthy due to either their depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we get into some of the personal work, right? The simple intake. What do you do on the daily? How do you take care of yourself? What are your hobbies? This, that, and the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
brother might spit out something like, I like to read books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like to go rollerblading. Okay. I like music, you know. Okay. All right. Now they talking to me as a black brother before them, right? So
Right.
there could be intimidation there, and or there could be a feeling
Right.
of unity or a mixture of both, right?
Right.
But when we get into therapy, what I often see is that as we break it down, I'm like, well, what happened to that coping skill of rollerblading?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought it would
Mm-hmm.
look good. Oh, what
Mm,
about reading? I dropped out when I was so and so. I really don't read, Doc. I'll be on Facebook and stuff like that. So,
mm.
so what's going on? Well, we haven't even had 200 years to begin to write on our blackboard. We have not even begun to write our culture on our blackboard. So we start
Yeah.
filling it in with white ideologies and start erasing what truly it means to be a black person in a land
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't meant for us. So we
Yeah.
erase ourselves before we even get started. You with me?
Wow.
And we're not taught that. We taught to work. I don't know about y'all, but I started working at 15 for
Yeah.
$6.23.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And my
Yep.
grandfather was proud. Let me tell you something, Shay,
Mm-hmm.
real quick. The man, my grandfather pulled up at 2 in the morning at a fast food joint that I was working at. Okay. And he saw me running around with ice buckets and pouring the ice in the machine, right? And cleaning
Mm,
all of the stuff, the tables, and sweeping real quick before my shift was over. And when I got
mm-hmm.
in the car, okay, I was 15. My grandfather looked me in my eyes. He was a tall black man, well over 6 feet, chocolate, melanated, privileged. Okay. And he said to me, I'm so proud of you, grandson. And I looked at
Mm.
him, my feet throbbing. You know, they got them horrible, supposed to be non-slip shoes. I slipped all the time, by the
Right.
way. Uh, but he set me in his wagon, his station wagon. And he looked me in my eyes at 2 in the morning, 2:15 about. And he said, I'm proud of you, grandson. I said, what? And he said, I saw you in there working, right?
Mm.
I saw you in there working. Oh, okay. All right, Grandpa. What did I do with that check? That check was
Right.
also used to go into the household, that $6.20 some odd
Mm.
cents. My grandfather didn't say, I saw you lead. I see something brighter for you. I see college, right? I see
Yeah.
us digging into our roots. Actually, stop doing that job and go to the library and learn about our Igbo
Mm-hmm.
roots. He didn't say none of
Mm-hmm.
that. He knew what was best for him to stay alive as a black man born in the 1920s was for what? For me to hush my mouth, work for the white man, right?
Right.
And just
Right.
conform. That was something I did not do. So Shay, to really
Wow.
again elaborate on that, right? Like that's real, right? Where we erase ourselves and try to input a white ideology because we feel that as safe. And that is
Mm.
partly how we made it to this point, right?
Yeah.
Partly freeing ourselves. Nobody freed us. We freed ourselves based on
Mm-hmm.
economics. We freed ourselves, right, by being smart, learning,
Right.
listening, trying to strategize. We freed ourselves, right? And we invented over half the things that's in this nation, right? And so I'll argue that just to say, first, we got to start with the erasure. If Black men
Mm-hmm.
recognize that they are embracing erasure of self, and then figure out how
Right.
to
Right.
move mind, body, and soul, we'll get to a better off place.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I this is there's two questions I want to ask, and they may be a little bit off, but I think that it's still connected. So there's been a lot of media, a lot of stuff put out there in regards to black men and their relationships with their moms.
Mhm.
And that the mother has the power to pretty much speak into him as if, to build him or to break him. There's also the thing out there that, when the fathers leave the home, some Black mothers feel that they can raise their sons to be Black men. I would like to know your thoughts about both.
Go ahead, Shay. You trying to give me some trouble.
Because you know what? Because I think that this also touches on, the need, why Black men are needed in this nation, and I want to kind of also see how the hurt and stuff kind of also comes from our families, and how us as Black women, we have to be mindful of some certain things as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
You better stop. I love that question. Let's get it, because we're going to get deep. Here's the deal, Shay. I'm going to tell you this, right? Let me make sure I preface this statement that I'm going to say by saying what I believe firmly to be true on this planet. And that statement is as clear as I can think it through. There is no other species of living being that has two legs, a heart, a brain, and the neurology of humans that are stronger than the Black woman. Period. Period. Now, I got all kind of historians. I got neuroscientists. I got psychologists, other social workers that would argue that down. Cool.
Right.
I believe that Black women are the strongest beings that walk this planet. Okay. And my rationale for that belief is that these sisters had to carry on their backs the girth, the knowledge, and the experience to hush the Black man and stop that African warrior, West African warrior, from fighting.
Right.
She had to tell him, come in. She had to nurture, right? Not only Black kids, but white kids and Asian kids at time, and American Indian kids at time on certain plantations. She had to nurture them with her own supplements, her own milk from her own breasts. She had to coddle them. I don't think y'all heard what I said.
That's deep.
Woman, she had to do it, Shay. The blood that is within you and the blood that is within me comes from that origin, those roots in that ground. And that is in itself a Black woman. Now, with that being said, it does not subtract from the usefulness of a Black man. Or for that, for when we think about that, for any human. But let's just focus on the Black man. It does not subtract that the Black woman is the most powerful thing on this earth from a Black man. The woman bore the man. She had the baby. She dealt with the thing. She had the thing incubating for, if she's blessed, 9 months. She birthed this thing. And technically, she is the only thing on this planet that could nourish this thing to get it to grow into what we see today.
Right.
She has the richest product, the richest nutrition to provide that little one by way of her body just doing it by itself. Now, that's other women as well. Let's just talk about Black men. When we start thinking about the culture of Black men out of the home or being displaced or not being loyal and all these things, we really should go back and look at where other Black people originated from and look at the cultures within those homes. And what we'll see is that there's a huge disparity between how African men show up and how African American men show up for their families. Right. There's an entanglement between religion, culture, the type of enslavement, the type of cultures that's in your blood and all the things, right, that yields it. But the reality is this: Black women have the ability to raise a child that is indeed true. There is a reason why there's more than one sex. There is room for everybody and everyone has a part. I do think, like my mother, like the women that are in my family who are raising their children as individual moms, they are doing phenomenal jobs, but I have still heard them say that they do not take the place of a male figure, and particularly the father of said children, right, in that child's life. So I would just say this to answer your question. There is a need for both and. Black women can do it. Should they be forced to? I think not. Are they the
Right.
most powerful beings? I think so. Do they have all
Mhm.
the tools that they need to? Yes. If they give all of the resources that they have to nourish and raise Black children, or any children for that matter, right? We
Mhm.
then have to start thinking about the fulfillment of life, and is that the purpose? And the question or the answer to that is no, that's not the purpose. Black women deserve joy, love, fulfillment, liberty, and freedom to do what they desire to do. But so often we are seeing them forced to do the dance by themselves, and they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. As you were speaking, my co-host Corey Wilkerson just joined us.
How you doing?
Dr. Parker.
Yeah, I'm well,
I
Corey.
really I really wanted Corey to be a part of this conversation. Because number one, he's a Black man.
Clocks
And
too.
happy Father's Day, by the way.
Thank you.
And I the question I just proposed to him was, how we have conversation about how, and we've talked about this before, how the mother, when the father has left the home, a lot of Black women feel that they can teach their sons to be men and they don't need help from Black men. I'm not gonna say a lot. I'm gonna say there's talk, right? But also the other question I had for Dr. Parker was, as moms, we have the ability to speak strength into that young Black boy, or to completely break him down by how we speak to them. Very true. So did you have any questions in regards to that or comments?
So when I came in, I agree with everything I said, and I think sometimes just in my experience when those conversations happen, I think sometimes that those comments that maybe some Black women speak to their sons come out of survival, right? Like they feel like they have to, yes, they can build a man up and they can subtract, and sometimes they may feel like they don't need, but I think that's out of survival. I don't think they truly believe that. I think there's a want that they want the Black man in the home, right? But I think sometimes when you don't have an option, where do you grab your strength from? Right? Because sometimes, maybe the Black boy looks like that there's a weakness there because there's no man there. So where does she do with that? She has to speak power into that. Is that fair to her? It absolutely isn't. Right. So sometimes I don't think that's it's on purposely done. I think sometimes it's out of survival and what do I do? Right. I don't want him to feel like he's less than because his father is maybe not in the home or he's not around. So I have to speak power over and above that. Right. Yes, I'm your mother, and yes, I'm here. But don't feel like you don't have what you need because your father's not in the house. You are, and you will be, and you can be. Right. Absolutely. So sometimes it's spoken out of that, and not to say that it's not. You don't hear the hum of I don't need and we don't need and things like that. And sometimes that has a negative connotation with that. But I think sometimes it's out of survival because everybody wants to be parented and loved by their parents, right? So I think that's sometimes out of survival.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. Hey, listen, I echo Corey, your perspective on the reality. Black women knew that their babies were in danger before statistics said that we had, as Black men, the highest health indicators of risk in this nation. Black women knew that already. They were preparing us already before we start doing statistics, y'all, before we start finding out that life expectancy and mortality, right, is the highest in what population? Black men. Y'all with me? Chronic disease is highest in what population? Things like blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, obesity, etc. in Black men. But the Black mama already knew that. And so to your point, Corey, it's a survival tactic. Because when daddy, as the bull, right, was pulled away from the plantation or hung before you and or hung, raped, sexualized, and all the things, mama had to teach that baby how to hush now, right? And be okay with being not okay, right? She had to figure it out. And so there's great literature, you all, that we could point to that links exactly what Corey is talking about to our current trend and how Black men are at times at a higher rate than other men, disproportionately out of the home, right? But we link that directly to the trend of being in chattel slavery in this nation in current times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You so
Come on.
okay.
Sir. Come on.
I'm glad you said that because on social media and in other conversations is always linked to the black woman is why the black man is not in the home.
Mm-hmm. Whoever making that, we not friends. Okay, who's ever making that is not friends. We got to understand that we have criminalized the black woman. We have sexualized her in this nation. We still do that. And then we criminalize her, right?
Yep.
Muhammad Ali did one of the best interviews I had ever seen. He was sitting with a white reporter and he explained how he has white in his body. If you ain't seen it, go jump on YouTube. Ain't no, nothing. Just go Google Muhammad Ali talking about why he is biracial.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And he'll explain to you that what he believes, which is more than likely the truth, that there was a black grandma, one of his black great grannies on a plantation. And the white slave owner decided he want to go back there with the big hipped and nice bosomed and strong and burly black woman who was taking care of all them babies while his white wife was struggling in the house. Right. Right. Went back there and raped his sister. Right. Which led to part of his lineage. We cannot forget that this over-sexualization, this marginalization, this desire to eliminate black women is fuel sucking. And if you have no more fuel, how you gonna give it? So yes, your black mama might tell you don't go in this store and act a fool or else X, Y, and Z, right? That's a structure for her protection. Of saying, I got to protect me, but I also got to protect you. And I don't have the time or the liberties, right, to open up this book and teach you about, this type of cadence from whiteness that I was forced to learn. Right. And I'm just telling people, go take a look over here in the continent of Africa. Just go take a look at our siblings and how things look a lot differently, how black moms raise their babies. Right. So, again, I think that it's a side effect, and I don't think that it is anything short of blackness being criminalized, particularly black females being criminalized in the black male's mind, which then does what? It essentializes whiteness. Whiteness is needed. Whiteness is our female teachers, and they're nice to us, right? But why at home is my black mama upset? My black mama upset because of redlining. My black mama upset because she's smarter than that sister that's teaching that class, but she's not getting recognized for it. Mama tired because that white lady just made it seem like she was perfect in the system that she taught you was perfect, but mama still got to figure out herself and her black skin and how to keep your black butt safe. These are all realities that we must come to terms with. So whoever's arguing that black women got issues and they're a product or they're the reason for the product of whatever issues black men got, I challenge them.
Yeah. I'm glad. And I think that's definitely something that I would love to have that conversation at the Rebirth Live, which was going to be happening in October. We're talking about healing our community. And I think in order to heal our community, we got to heal our families. We got to heal our black families. And that is definitely a topic that I have seen, not just on social media, but just even in person conversations, and it's disheartening because it feels like, we're turning on each other instead of being a team. We're blaming each other for things that we really didn't do. It's outside of us, Yeah,
so I agree with what y'all are saying. But I will say this though, and I think that it serves for conversation because I'm sure it'll come up in October, right? I think that while what you said, Dr. Parker, was true on where this comes from, right, and how we got here, I think sometimes because we put that in the forefront, sometimes it gets ignored how black men feel, right? And I think it's true to say that while the black woman, there's a reason why she feels that way, we can't ignore the reality of what's going on, whether it be social media or in reality of what's happening inside of our black families, where men are saying, you know what? I'd rather just co-parent as opposed to being it, because I can't take whatever the frustration she may feel, whatever the anger she may feel. To your point, Shea, like we're turning on each other and it's becoming too toxic in this house. Doesn't mean that I'm a bad man. It just means that I choose to not continue to do this And maybe we are better co-parent, not to say that's a better outcome, right? Because you see when you separate families, what tends to happen, the outcomes that tend to happen when you separate. But I would much rather co-parent and do it from over here. Doesn't mean I'm absent. It just means I'm not in the house, because this is happening. And you will see that the sentiment is, I don't need, right? But it's not coming from a place of like, you really don't need. It's coming from, I come back to the place of frustration. But that's how we're being made to feel, right? So I don't want to ignore the feeling of the black man that's being said. So when sometimes our survival is stating the obvious, that's what's happening, right? So we can talk about what happens in slavery and where it comes from. That happens to us too. So the way that you may look at us based off of the things that are happening in slavery is the same way that frustration may come from us as well, right? So we can't ignore that there's also a population that look at whiteness or other ethnicities as more successful, smarter, they take care of, they're better at X. That has a harping on us as well as black men, right? So I agree with what you're saying. I know that it will come up because I know there's a population of black men that have either felt that way, feel that way, or will feel that way. We have sons that are growing up, right? And we have to make sure that we're speaking to them and empowering them, that they're going to go out in the world and they're not going to always have us to speak to some of the reaction. They're not going to go back that far. You know what I mean? Like we almost denounce what our generations before us, and we deal with 2025 like the past didn't exist, right? So I don't want to ignore what that feeling is like for us, and maybe the question is, how would you speak to the black man that feels inferior or feels as an outcast or made to feel like they're not enough because they're not connecting all the dots right now, or are held up to a certain standard of something that they can't live up to or are not able to live up to?
That's right. That's right. Corey, I'm loving on what you're saying, just regarding, right, the ignorance of, right, the reality of said black men. That's a reality, right? And we know that there's sexist and biased ideologies that we exist by, right? Men are stronger, men are bigger, men are this, men are that, right? We have a privilege walking around with the sex that we didn't even earn. Let's be clear, right? And in that, I always believe when we start talking about the tit for tat, this or that, right? There is a internal, right, proposition that we got to deal with. It's internal that we got to do some work. And then there's external as well, right? There's an internal component that we got to work on, and there's an external component that we got to work on, right? And oftentimes, instead of us digging, and as black men, right, because I'm gonna own this, right? And also I'm a feminist and critical race theorist. So, it's an argument, it's a tangent that I will talk about in lengths, right? Instead of us as black men figuring out, right, the particular cheat codes, if you will, to why our black women may behave a certain way or feel a certain way, right? We engage in the ostracization of them and the marginalization of their feelings to amp ours. And then I have seen a trend that is ever so out now versus when I was a kid, where black men usher in another lesser pigmented, if pigmented at all, sister into that world, right? And I think that could be damning for anyone. So I go back to, right, how do we begin to touch the younger brothers is we don't forget. Once we decide that we forget, narrative is the most important way of information on Africa's continent, we forget a lot. Right? Narrative is what leads them. And we forget that. The worst thing for me to see is around Dr. King's Day, where we got all folks that is 50 and over in there. And we ain't got none of the younger ones in there.
Right.
So we get to this point now where we got people trying to erase stuff in libraries, right? Storytelling. So we got to internal heal and do some of that work on our own. And it's no one's responsibilities but our own. And then we got external work. When you learn, then you spread that. And I fear that we don't spread that to our black sisters. So we miss it. We sitting there on it and we miss how to give back. And then if we sexualize someone else, like a white woman or another sister that's different pigmented or whatever, and all this stuff, we throw her up on a pedestal. Our young boys and girls, they watching and seeing that's right. That's the way to go. And it's not the way to go. We got to say, okay, I'm going to humble myself on this day and work on me and my sister. Let me help you work on you. And then let's work on us, right? Internal and an external factor. I think we missed that in our relationships. Yeah. And we don't know how to love on white women because we've been taught how to love, or black women, I'm sorry. We don't know how to love on our sisters because we've been stripped from them and forced to serve the white woman. So we know what she wants. That's systemic.
Wow.
That's systemic, right? That's systemic.
Wow.
We were forced to learn how to love them. We were forced not to learn the black woman and not to love her. We were forced to beat her and to be prepared to leave her, right, in order to serve the white woman. And so then we sexualize that, and now we dehumanize our black sisters. That's my opinion on that, right? We got internal work to do and external work to do. And then we as black men have to take ownership and then unify that family. If you a man, right, you gonna practice what you preach. Right. And don't go over there with that white sister, that other sister that's different pigmented, and she think that she us, but she don't have the same life expectancy as the mother who bore your child. Right. Who's slated to die 10 times more likely. Right. 10 times more likely to die sooner. Right. Or have 80% chance of having a birth defect than any other women, black women, even on the continent of Africa here in this nation.
Yeah.
Right. There's a reason for that. Black men have to step up. We got to do better, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Dr. Parker, I was about to throw my phone.
throw it, Shay. Throw the phone now. We gonna take ownership today. We gonna take ownership.
Wow, what a way to wrap up. That was good. This is definitely gonna be a good conversation at Rebirth Live. As you were speaking, like you said some things that I didn't even think about. Through this whole interview, there was some things that came up that I didn't even think about. But before you came on, one of the things he was saying was the way to, to help the black man understand how powerful he is they need to educate him about, and same thing with our son. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, we erase, so many things have been erased or trying to be erased. And this generation is only thinking about right now what's going on, but they have to know where they came from and what happened and what's going on in order to know where they're going.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So this was very, very enlightening. I really appreciate your time. But this is the conversation. When we talk, this is what it feels like. This is what it sounds like. He did a presentation a couple weeks ago, and everybody in the group was just like, we're like, oh wow, so but this is what he does, and this is why I wanted you to come on to share your knowledge, and it's been a pleasure as always. So I definitely would love to have you come in the studio.
For sure.
Come in the studio, come up from Baltimore, from B-More, and hang out with us. And I'm definitely looking forward to having you at the Rebirth Live in October. So, any more questions you have, Corey?
No, I'm good. I'm sorry I missed the first part of it, but I'm looking forward to connecting with you again and seeing you again. Hopefully, we see you in October.
Yeah, I'm coming, y'all. Okay, rain and shine. I'm gonna be there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parker. Is there anything you want to leave for our audience? Any last minute words, or if someone wants to reach out or anything like that, please feel free. If you have anything coming up, please feel free.
Shay and Corey, I thank you all for hosting me today on Rebirth Podcast, y'all. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to think about where we came from and where we're at, and hopefully where we're going. I want to encourage people to be mindful of your mind, your body, and your soul. You got to be mindful of all those things. And when one of them is off, right, you got to address it. I want to encourage people to seek out mental health. We know that in our field that we see an increase of racial minorities, but particularly Black men, increasingly coming to see us. But I want it to be increased a lot more. I currently, in the state of Delaware, practice out at the Center for Child Development. The name is a little deceiving. And so hopefully taking on more clients and looking forward to working with some Black men or racially minority men in that space. I also want to encourage people, if they are in the Baltimore area, to find me on a website called LinkedIn. I can be found there, where folks can seek out my services. I do work particularly with Black men and Black families, but also racial minority families, with a spectrum of challenges that they may be dealing with. But again, Shea, Corey, I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your evening, Dr. Parker. That was a great conversation. I hope you guys took something away from it. If you have any questions or comments that we were not able, because I didn't even get a chance to go to the comment box. But if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out or put them in the chat, and I will make sure that we will get those answered for you. So I didn't get a chance to ask you, how was your Father's Day?
It was great. Still a dad. You know what I mean? Still a dad, you know?
Yes,
Yeah. But no, it was good. It was
yes.
good. It was
Okay,
good. It was
good.
awesome. It was
Very
awesome.
good. You're a great dad. You're a
Thank
wonderful
you.
dad. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So, guys, before we head out for the night, again, I just want to say thank you. And I also want to say happy Father's Day to all of you. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for Dr. Parker and his wealth of information that he shared with us. And we are going to be ending our season soon. Season 4 it's been a great few months, and it's been a season of healing. But season 5, we're going to move in a different direction. We're still going to bring you some great interviews, some great people that's going to be coming on and sharing their knowledge. So we're excited about season 5. I'm not sure exactly.
Season 5.
Season 5. And it's actually is more than that. I just started counting.
You just started counting.
It's
I figured
been
that.
more
Like,
than
it's
that.
been way
It has
longer than that.
definitely been more than
Yeah.
that. But yeah, season 5. So we're excited. And in season 5, we're going to be doing the Rebirth meetup, and we're going to be doing the Rebirth live. So just stay tuned for all of that information coming. So before we go, as you know, I do these retreats. I went to Costa Rica back in May and work with women from all areas of the United States. So one of the things that I wanted to do was create something that women can still feel connected. So once they leave the retreat, that they're not just on their own. So I've introduced a group which is a membership group. It's called Rediscovering Her. And this group is for women that want to redefine who they are, want to know who they are now in their next chapter going into life. Sometimes we lose our identity in relationships, in marriages, through divorce, being moms, in our careers, through chronic illness. Sometimes we never even had our identity. We walk through life not knowing who we are. So this space is for those women. And I was one of those women. I didn't really know who I was until, I'm going to say, I hit my 40s is when I really was able to identify who I am, who is Shea, not who the world told me I was, not who my parents said I was, not who religion said I was, but who am I, right? And more so who God says that I am, and what my purpose is. And so I want to share the skills, the knowledge, the information that I've learned in my own journey, but also bringing in the mental health side of this, because everything is mental health. Everything, no matter what you do, it starts here, right? So Rediscovering Her is a group. It's a membership group. You can go to my website and you can register, and you'll be able to find out how much it is. It's a very low fee per month. And what you will get for this group is 2 group sessions a month, workshops, masterclass per month, worksheets, life skills, affirmations, coaching, all kinds of things. And I'm telling you, once you go to the website and you see how much the price is, very, very inexpensive. I wanted to make it for the everyday woman. I want to make it affordable. And honestly, I don't even have to hide the price. I'll tell you guys what it is. It's $35 a month.
Oh, wow.
$35 a month for all of that. So Rediscovering Her is going to be starting in July. Please register. And here is Rediscovering Her. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Until next week, have a great night.
Happy Father's Day.